So welcome back to the channel, and if you've been watching the channel for years, you'll see that I like to get on the Facebook marketplace, find used deals, put computers together, flip them, refurbish them, and I actually make pretty decent money doing it. Now yes, it is a gamble because you can buy something and it doesn't work and the seller ghosts you, and there's really no obligation for them to do right by you and refund you your money. But sometimes if you play your cards right, take precautions, you can do really well. Now I've been doing the Facebook thing for many years. I have videos where I've gone out, picked up parts, and I've demonstrated all that type of stuff. But I really got to thinking about it. I've never built a computer just using eBay used parts. Now I've bought parts on eBay and I've done really well. Sometimes broken, used parts, and they were an easy fix, but I've never put a whole computer together using eBay parts. And that's what I'm gonna do in today's video. Now the goal is $300 or less. Can I put together a decent-ish 1080p gaming PC that still has a bit of an upgrade path and can perform pretty well? Now, I might have to consider the 4 parts are not working, just depending, to kind of keep within that budget, but I'm trying to find something that's upgradable, performs well, and obviously is cheap. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna get on eBay, try to find some cheap parts, and see, can I put a computer together just using eBay parts for $300? Does it perform well, and is it worth it? So we'll be back. We're back. It's been 2 weeks. We ran into some issues, and we'll talk about that as we go over each individual part, but we got everything that we need, and we are under $300. In fact, we are at $272. Now, of course, does not include tax. That just depends on your state, region, or whatever you're required to pay. But in my state, if you wanted to add it, it's probably about what, $20 if you had to add tax for all this. But anyways, we did have to do some change up, and I'll go over that. But for the most part, I think we got a pretty decent system to get us started. So let's take a look at what we got. So initially I had found a Ryzen 5 3600 for about $40 on eBay, or maybe it's like $45. But anyways, I had found it for about $45. It was claimed to be working. When I got it, it did not work. The seller was cool, gave me my money back. So I got back on eBay, started looking around, trying to find something cheap to stay within that $300. And I decided to go with the Ryzen 3 2200G. I paid $25 with it to include shipping, 4 cores, 4 threads, 3.5 gigahertz, 65 watt TDP. And what really intrigued me about it was that the seller included a cooler. Hasn't been used. This is the stock AMD cooler, should be more than enough to handle our CPU. Now for our graphics card, this can make or break a budget. We're trying to stay under the $300. So I was looking for a broken graphics card, particularly one that was used for mining. I got on the eBay $53.99. This is an EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 SC Gaming, 8 gigs of GDDR5. And yeah, it was used for mining. I went ahead, I popped it in. Obviously it didn't have the right BIOS on it, flashed it to the right BIOS. The card works perfect. Also applied some fresh thermal paste, so we're good to go. Now for our memory, this was a little bit tricky. DDR4 is a little pricey, not as cheap as it used to be. I picked this up. This is the Excel or Rate, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I've actually had this memory in the garage before. It's from PNY. This was 3600 megahertz speeds, and yeah, works perfectly. A little dirty and grimy, but yeah, it works fine. I paid $34 for this, plus I think it was $5 shipping on that, so about $39. Now for our motherboard, I took a chance on this one. I found this one, this was listed for $10.50. Well, that's what I won the bid for, and it was $14.35 shipping, so about $25 for this motherboard. It was listed that it was a Amazon return. Don't know how they got it or which way. Didn't ask the questions, but they said it does not power on. I took a gamble with it. Maybe it just needed some cleaning. It is a little bit dirty on it, but it came with everything that it needed. I have the box and the antennas, which is pretty cool. I popped in the CPU, fired it up, and this thing works perfectly. It powers on. I've stress tested it, so $25 for a motherboard, great. This is the Gigabyte Aorus B450, the Pro Wi-Fi. So even though our Ryzen 3 2200G might be a little weak, we can later upgrade this to a better CPU, get more performance. Now for our power supply, typically I like to get a new power supply, but I wanted to see what's the best bang for the buck I can get. I found this one for $30. It was $18 shipping, but it is a pretty good power supply. It's the EVGA Supernova 750 B2 80 plus. It's clean, No weird smells, but it is missing a majority of the cables, which was kind of unfortunate, but it works fine. It works perfect. We're into this one roughly $50. Great headroom if we decide to upgrade later, and definitely should get the job done. So for storage, I went with M.2 SATA primarily because I found this one for $10. It was $8 shipping, which wasn't bad. $18, it's pretty good. This is a 512 gig SATA, but if you look at the picture, this was what I was supposed to get. This is what they sent me. I reached out to the seller. They were really cool. They apologized and they said, hey, if it works and you can use it, we'll give you half your money back. It works, no issues with it, and I'm able to use it. So $18 quickly became $19 for everything. Not too bad, not the worst, but $9 for a 512 gig drive, pretty decent. So now the computer case. This is actually what delayed this. I had ordered a case, I paid about $50 for it, not bad. It was a used case, nothing fancy, no frills, all that type of stuff. It just had cheap RGB fans and the tempered glass. That looks really nice, plus that type of stuff makes a computer sell real quick. Well, it arrived and it was completely destroyed. The glass was broken because the seller decided it was a great idea to take this case, put it in the box, and cushion it with Walmart bags. Unfortunate. Reached out to the seller and I got my money back on that one. So the next day, got on eBay, found another one similar for that, paid about $55 for that one. And the same thing, it just wasn't packaged properly. I will say this, if you're buying a computer case from eBay with the tempered glass, if it's used, you're gonna take a gamble as far as like how they ship, because if they didn't have the original packaging, it is least likely, it's probably more likely the fact that they're not gonna package it right and it could get damaged. If I buy a case from eBay, I try to get like a new one. So I really didn't feel like waiting any longer to get a computer case and dealing with another one that was potentially broken. So I had this one lying around the garage. I'll put $60 for the budget over here. Tempered glass, RGB fans. I think it's a dark flash case that I've had years ago. It'll get the job done. So that's the one thing from eBay that I didn't get, but I mean, let's just say $60 if you was to buy it on eBay. So after dealing with this computer case headache, I went ahead and off camera before doing this video and tested all these parts. Everything does work, but I haven't tested them together. That's the thing. Sometimes things don't play well together. But moving on, when you're buying from eBay, when you get it, go ahead and test it right away. Most times you have 30 days warranty that they do give you. Sometimes they will say not eligible for return, or they won't do a return. But if they sell you something claiming to work, and it doesn't, you can still get your money back on that. That's the one good thing about eBay versus Facebook. Now, the motherboard and the graphics card, obviously I bought that as is for parts are not working, so that's on me if they didn't work, but fortunately they do work. So we're into this $272. We got all these pretty decent parts. Let's find out how well does a $272 PC from eBay perform. So let's get to building. So she is built and she looks pretty good. We got some RGB issues and we'll talk about that later, but for the most part, build was pretty simple. Everything works, so that's always a plus. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at our first game. It's gonna be Shadow of the Tomb Raider, one of my favorites, and let's see how it performs. So 1080p, high settings, and I'm gonna tell you right now, our CPU is gonna be a little bit of an issue. Holding back that 1080 just a tad. So let's go ahead, let's play this scene. Let's see how smooth it looks. Not bad, but we got a lot of dips. And I'm sure we'll get some dips, yeah, to the 60s like I was thinking. I mean, we're still 60 frames per second, but there's a lot going on in this scene. It is smooth and it's not stuttery, so that's a good thing. But considering it looks pretty good, and I'm sure if we had like a better CPU that would complement this GPU better, we could definitely get a lot more frames per second. But considering $25 CPU for the budget, there is room to upgrade. It works pretty good. So our next game, Cyberpunk, 1080p, medium settings. Just kind of sitting here about 80 frames per second, but I'm pretty sure once we get into more exciting things to do, we'll get some dips. So let's go ahead. As you can see, we're hitting 70. Not too terrible. Oh, we got 60. Headshot, headshot. There we go. Now we're at 60. Yeah, a couple of 60s. All right. Not bad, playable. Looks good. And yeah, we're getting below 60 frames per second, but it's not stuttering. So if we wanted to, we could probably tweak the settings more to make it more consistent 60 frames per second. But I mean, for the most part, pretty good. And like I talked about in the last game, we do have more room for improvement on the table, but our CPU seems to be holding us back a little bit. So let's go ahead, let's dive into the next one. So Fortnite, and this game is driving me nuts today. So last night I was playing the game, I was at 1080p medium settings, and the game was playing perfect, averaging about 90 frames per second, pretty decent. And obviously if we had a better CPU, we'd be able to get more performance out of it. Well, this morning, there was a Windows update. I didn't catch it in time. I rebooted, installed it, and then I go to play this game, and the game is just, it is so choppy. I had to lower it to 1080p low settings, cap the frames at 60 frames per second, and it's just stuttery, and it just keeps dipping. And yeah, it's really not a good playable experience. It's kind of unfortunate. And even looking back, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the performance on that one went down a couple of frames per second, not as bad as this one, and even with Cyberpunk, but yeah, gotta love Windows. Not really. Wouldn't have this issue with Linux, but that's another story. But either way, considering once I get that squared away, the game is playable, it's pretty decent, not too bad bang for the buck. So I'm happy with it. I'll get this thing squared away. Let's go ahead, wrap up this video, and give you my final thoughts. So for $272, I think we did pretty good. Can't complain on it. Performs really well, and obviously our weak link is our CPU, and we can get a better CPU and get more performance out of this. Now, considering what we're into it, there is a good upgrade path. Like I said, a better CPU because we got a motherboard that actually allows us to get better, a better CPU in there. You can put a better graphics card, and probably if you spend maybe another $100, $200, just depending on which route you go, for less than $500, you're gonna have a pretty decent machine that's gonna hold up for a while. Yes, I paid $272, but I did take a gamble with the motherboard and the graphics card. They were both labeled as not working, which is why I got it cheap. Fortunately, the graphics card, I kind of knew that it was going to need a BIOS flash, but then again, count your chickens before they hatch. It could have just been that the card was bad. It was labeled as a mining card. There could have been rust or corrosion, and this card could not have come around, but it did come around, and it works perfect. Motherboard listed as no power, not working. I paid $20 for it. They go for about $80 in working condition. I fired it up and it works. I've stress tested both of them and I have no concerns or issues. I gamed on it last night and I gamed on it this morning. And that's something that I do recommend. If you're gonna flip a used computer, you need to personally use it for a little bit. Yes, stress tests are good to do, but actually install one of the games that you're into, play it for at least an hour, because I have found that a computer could pass a stress test with no issues, but the minute that you put a real game or do some editing with it, it can crash, it can be unstable, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, as far as buying on eBay versus the Facebook Marketplace, there's pros and cons to both. Now, with the Facebook Marketplace, I have found that you can negotiate better. Perfect example is that they have the graphics card listed for $100, you can offer $60. They're more likely to take it because you're offering them cash. Cash is king. If you go on the Facebook Marketplace, have cash, and people will give you a better deal for cash. Not Cash App, not Venmo, not PayPal, cash. That's the way I have found good deals on that. Then also, when you reach out to those sellers, ask them, is there anything else that you're looking to get rid of or you're looking to sell? You can make a bundle deal with them and get an even better deal. And yeah, turn out pretty good like that. eBay, you get what you get. Obviously, people are gonna sell it for higher because eBay takes out their 13% and some change fees, shipping, taxes, all that type of stuff. So if they're selling a graphics card for $100, they're not gonna let it go for 60 because of the fees. They're gonna probably, lowest they'll let it go is for about $80 to $90 because of those fees. But the plus side of eBay, if you buy a graphics card for $100, you get it and it doesn't work, you have buyer protection. Facebook Marketplace, unless you bring a rig out to the scene to test everything out, you buy it for $100 and it doesn't work, that's all it could ghost you, and they really have no obligation to do right by you. So that's the gamble, that's the pros and cons. I have found a combination of using both has really helped me to get good deals, put systems together, and make some decent money. And in this case, we bought 2 parts that were labeled as broken. That's the other thing to consider. If you're gonna try that route, it is a gamble. If those parts don't work, you're stuck with them and that eats into your profits. If this didn't work, then I would have been out, I think, what, 20 for the motherboard, 50 for the graphics card, $70. So no matter what system I would have put together, I would have been into it negative $70 because I spent the money on these broken parts. Fortunately, we didn't have to worry about that. So with all that being said, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticism. Was $272 a good value for this? What do you think it could sell for? And eBay or Facebook Marketplace? Which one would you prefer? Some people don't prefer either, but I'm curious, for those of you who do the used hustle, which one works for you? If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.